All right. Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of the of the Bitcoin News Show right here on the CryptoCast Network. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for joining us. We have a great show for you today, a great set of panelists, and believe it or not, I think I figured out Zoom, so we're going to get to that, guys. But we are screen sharing our website here at CryptoCast.network, where you guys can find all of our links, YouTube, iTunes, RSS feeds, all that good stuff. And of course, if you enjoy content like this, we do have a donation address at the bottom of the page that you guys can check out. So since this is a community-supported YouTube channel, we very much appreciate all the donations and support and feedback from you guys. So let's go ahead and stop the screen share, get into your quick bit section here, guys, where we go over the news, the quick news for the week, and then we'll get into our main, introduce our panelists and get into the main topic. So here we go. Guys, there's some fantastic Bitcoin articles out there by Unchained Capital. For the month of August. You guys got to check this out. There's just amazing articles into Bitcoin, into research. They got stuff on energy use and mining, scaling, economic fundamentals. They got a bunch of stuff, guys. Highly recommend you check that out. Then we have some news. Bitcoin has surpassed $100 billion realized market cap and reaches new hash power all-time highs with over 87 million terahashes, guys. So Bitcoin is just going super strong. The fundamentals have never been stronger. It's incredibly healthy right now. And in addition to this, guys, Bitcoin fees today are over 88% less than they are in December 2017. And of course, guys, I'll have the links to all of this. I have all the links to all of this and our panelists in the show notes below. And then we have Bitcoin, guys. This is kind of funny. It looks like the Bitcoin Twitter account @Bitcoin account has broken up with Roger, and it is now returned to its to the roots and just supporting BTC. So make sure you guys check that out. That's kind of funny. And actually, I believe they just followed me today. So there's got to be some kind of fundamental change that's happening over there at the Bitcoin Twitter account, guys. So check that out for fun, for the lulls. It's always great. Never a dull moment in Bitcoin. And then we got Coinbase, guys. They have acquired Xapo's custody arm for $55 million. And the reason why I bring this up, guys, is as a word of caution. If you are actually having custodial funds with Xapo, now that Coinbase has taken over, like there's some, I'm telling you guys, get your money out of there now if you can. I know there's some people saying, look, they acquired everybody, they acquired all the developers, so it should be the same company, same thing. Nah, as long as there is Coinbase in charge, there is going to be errors, there is going to be fraud, there's going to be all sorts of things that are going to be involved that is not good. They do not have a history, guys, that is worth the caliber that Xapo has really brought to the marketplace. So definitely check that news out, guys, and be very, very careful with Xapo now that Coinbase owns the custody arm. Then more caution, guys. LocalBitcoins has even newer KYC rules. So they make sure, guys, if you can, try to stay away from LocalBitcoins. They have completely KYC, unless you're okay with KYC, but they have completely KYC now everything. So make sure take that with a grain of caution. I actually have heard of some stories of saying that LocalBitcoins is actually leaking like entire histories of people to federal agencies and things like that. So be very careful with LocalBitcoins, guys, and any place that you have to KYC. Then this is a good story. The gold market, guys, has been flooded with fake gold bars. It's kind of interesting to see where, with our little full node device right on our Raspberry Pi, I can verify the entire network, the integrity of the entire network, and where every single coin is. And if there is, in fact, any false coins, and of course there isn't, right? The Bitcoin is validated by millions of computers around the world, but you can't validate gold so easily, guys. So yet another benefit for Bitcoin. And then Shopify merchants, guys, can now accept Lightning Network payments with OpenNode. Make sure you check that out. That's really great. If you know anybody that has a Shopify account, it's a huge company, make sure you let them know that they can now accept Bitcoin via Lightning Network really, really easily with OpenNode. So that's really cool. And finally, I did tweet out, guys, tweet about the Bitcoin.com website. Where basically this is what fraud looks like, and I posted an image of essentially what they're doing over there, which of course it says Bitcoin.com, it says buy Bitcoin, and then defaults to BCH. So that is not going to help us, guys. That's not going to make the space look good. That's not going to help new people coming into the space. So make sure you check that out. And if you know anybody that's been harmed by accidentally buying BCH instead of BTC and lost money, guys, make sure you're contacting lawyers. Make sure you guys are getting a class action, something like that together. And so with that aside, I think we can go ahead and introduce our amazing panelists, guys. Today, we have so many great people today. Let's see if I can unspotlight myself with this new fangled technology, but maybe not. I'll do that in a second. I'll let everybody else talk first. So here we go. Introduction, guys. We got Tib, the Bitcoin enthusiast and writer, creator of USDsat.com. Tib, how you doing?
Good. Thank you. Though I'd love to take the credit. I haven't created this website.
Oh, you didn't?
sat. No, I wish I had.
Okay, my bad. I thought you did. It was right
Yeah,
on
yeah,
your
yeah.
profile.
It is
Yeah,
in my profile because I love promoting it. Let's say the
it's a
goal is to
great
get
site.
to USD sat parity, right?
Absolutely, it's a great site. I definitely recommend everybody check out if you can, guys, check out that website usdsat.com. It is absolutely great. Let's go ahead and get in the next person. We got Mr. Benny P, ladies and gentlemen, the only man alive with the combined patience and comedic genius it takes to scam the scammers. Benny, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man, really, really great to hear from you. It's been a while since you've been on the show, so glad to hear you. Glad to have you be here. And man, that was an absolute great troll that you did. That I'm sure that got a few views on the old Medium article there, but highly encourage everybody to check that out if you don't know what I'm talking about. That was awesome, Betty. All right, man. Then we got Mr. Ansel Linder, guys. You may have just seen him on Adam Meister's show This Week in Bitcoin. We got Ansel today. Ansel from Bitcoin and Markets. Ansel, how you doing?
Doing great. Humbled to be on this great panel. You guys, all of you, great Bitcoiners.
Absolutely, guys. We got a content creator panel today, I think. So absolutely, really great. And then we got finally the greatest, probably the greatest podcast of all, guys. I mean, it's hard to make podcasts when you're in the shadow of the Stefan Livera podcast, but we do our best. Stefan Livera, how are you doing today, man?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Vortex. It's been a while since I was last on, and also it's great to see you're wearing one of my branded shirts. So great work there. Love it.
You know it, man. Orange coin, good. Number go up, people. Absolutely. Highly recommend you guys check out this shirt. You can get it from stefanlivera.com, I believe, right?
Yeah. It's on Layer 1 BTC, but there's a link. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, guys. Check that out. So awesome, Stefan. And again, man, thank you so much for being on the show. Stefan has to wake up extremely early, guys, to be on the show. So we really, really, really appreciate it. He's already ready to go, already excited, it looks like. So I'm excited. All right, Stefan, let's get the show going, guys. With the first topic, we got 3 topics. First, as usual, the first one today is Judge rules against Craig Wright, criticizing credibility in court decision. That's actually a bit of a tongue twister. But yeah, guys, we got the Bitcoin SV leader himself, FakeSatoshi, has lost his legal battle against Ira Kleiman. Apparently, FakeSatoshi has been ordered to pay the David Kleiman's estate 50% of the Bitcoin he says he mined prior to 2014. And he has never provided any proof, of course, that he owns these coins. So the Judge Reinhardt expressed numerous doubts about FakeSatoshi's credibility, ended up rejecting all of his testimony. So let's go, Stefan, with you first, man. What are your thoughts on this whole case, and what are your thoughts on FakeSatoshi? And does he actually have the coin, man? Like, does he have the coin, and when will he go away?
Look, man, I just sometimes I just get to a point where I'm like, I'm not even going to follow this stuff that closely. Like, I only vaguely, lightly follow it, just obviously because it comes up on all of our Twitter feeds, right? But it's been going on for so long, right? And obviously I'm feeling it for, poor guy Hodler, right? Like he's going through all this bullshit, right? So, hopefully it kind of blows over sooner or later. And yeah, obviously it looks like, I really highly doubt that he actually has the coins that he's saying he's got, right? Like, he is a known tax fraud guy right now. He was actually trying to scam the Australian tax office by basically saying, like, he was doing some stuff like to basically say, oh, all this stuff is written off as research costs, therefore pay me and like get like refund money back from the tax. He's like just full of BS, right? And it's quite sad to see when sometimes you meet people. I've actually met a guy in real life, or a couple of people in real life, who are like BSV people. And I'm like, how can you believe this guy? How can you actually... Anyway, look, I'll finish up soon. But yeah, I just think it's going to be over sooner or later, and we'll have new battles to face.
New battles to face, guys. Always new battles to face in Bitcoin. So thank you, Stefan, for that. Yeah, it's really crazy. Benny, what are your thoughts on this, man? Like, do you think he has the coin since he hasn't been able to prove it? And where do you see this case going? And when do you predict possibly that FakeSatoshi will be in jail?
Oh man, this got exhausting. It's just constant. First of all, I'm astounded that he's been around for this long. Like, it should have been where's the signature? Oh, no signature. Okay, bye. But it's just gone on and on and on. And the interesting thing about this, so what happened in court, essentially, it's not legally binding yet. It still has to go through one more judge before he's officially ordered to pay. But he's saying that he won't have access to the last key of this multi-sig for the Tulip Trust until sometime in January of this coming year. So 2020.
January 2020. Yep.
Yeah. So that puts him in this spot where there's a few possible outcomes. One, where it gets to that date and he just says, maybe he somehow magically does have the coins and he pays it out to the Kleiman estate. Okay. So that would be, I think there's about a 0% chance of that happening. But then it gets to that date and he still keeps up with the facade, but makes up some story about why he cannot now access the coins. Or finally, he admits he was lying all along, which has its own host of legal implications. So he's kind of in this spot where it's like, if he has the money, he's going to lose half of it. If he doesn't have the money, then he's either going to get in trouble for not giving it up because he says he owns it, or for not giving it up because he said he was lying all along, both of which have very real legal implications. So we'll see how it plays out, but none of it's going to be in his favor. And I just can't wait for him to go away. But already, you've seen the narrative on the BSV side, it went from he's going to have his day in court and emerge victorious to, oh, now all this BTC is going to be dumped by the Kleiman estate. It's just whatever's happening, it's somehow amazing for BSV. And I don't know. Yeah. I think it'll be gone sooner or later, or it'll just kind of gradually fizzle into the background like Roger.
It is kind of funny. The price is just completely, obviously into the tank as most other altcoins are as well. And so it's just kind of funny to watch these people still defend. And like you say, nothing is bad for BSV. They literally take every single excuse, every single thing that is freaking bad for it and turn it around and spin. Oh, this is a good thing. Actually, the court ruled that he is fake Satoshi. Of course, the judge did not do that. The judge actually said that all of his testimony is fraudulent, didn't believe a word he said and threw it out. So it is kind of crazy that they still find positive ways to spin this. Ansel, let's go with you next. Ansel, what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, we've been kind of talking about it for a minute, but I mean, I do want to get everybody's thoughts on this. And as you guys know, I don't talk about this all the time, but this was a bit of an interesting thing because the judge actually threw out his testimony. So Ansel, let me know your thoughts, man. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I generally don't follow it. I think there's a few types of people that follow it. You have the lawyers that are interested in it. You have the Bitcoin soldiers that are on the, guarding the gate of the social attack vectors. Those guys really like it, and marketers that are using it for clickbait or whatever. So I don't really worry too much about it. I think it'll be a good opportunity, say in a year's time or so, to go back and do a real good debrief of what happened during this whole BCH and BSV drama, and from an affinity scam type analysis or something like that. But right now, I don't really pay too much attention to it at all.
Absolutely. Would love to see in a year from now, maybe Peter McCormick do a series on it like he's done on a couple other series. That would be great to see him. Or somebody, just go through a bunch of interviews, even like Charlie Shrem is doing with Untold Stories, something like that, just so we can sort of get a little bit more clarity on it, so the general public can get clarity. But from everything that I can see right now, again, with the judge's comments and the throwing out of the commentary, it's pretty clear that I don't think he's going to last much longer. Of course, he's always got a date to throw out, right? The latest is the January 2020, but that's going to come and I see you laughing, Ansel, but that's going to come and go just like everything else. And so I don't think he can keep the shroud up forever. At some point, the court is going to need a final decision. So great comments from you, Ansel. Let's go with Tib. Tib, what are your thoughts on this, man? Close this crazy topic out for us.
Yeah. I'll make it short for everybody because I think we're spending too much time on FakeSatoshi. We know he's a fraud. I think if we could spin out this in a positive light, I think it would be it is a good experiment for law enforcement to get a better sense of how to actually go about dealing with those cases. If there's a way at some point to sort of formalize a methodology to understand whether or not anybody has control over keys and therefore is the rightful owner of BTC, I think that would be a positive outcome. Related to that case in particular, I mean, he's claiming that he mined the first 70 blocks of Bitcoin. These are not part of the Tulip fund per se. So he should be able to provide not only the public addresses for that, but also the signatures related to those addresses. And he hasn't done so. So, I mean, it's pretty clear to me that he's just buying time, getting some free airtime for BSV and other fraudsters related to this story. Because in the end, I think the worst case scenario is roughly $1,000 if he's proven to be a liar in that case, and perhaps a year of jail time. So it's not a lot. It's basically free PR. So I wouldn't cover it too much.
It's well, of course, he's technically owed a little bit more than $1,000 at the moment. But again, like you say, he has shown zero proofs that he's going to be able to pay that anyway. So great points, Tim. Great points. All right, guys, I think we can move on. I'm sure everybody wants us to move on to the next topic, but we had to say a little bit of fun stuff. And again, the court threw out every single last bit of his testimony, guys. So make sure you check out the links and the stories on that. So before we go to the next topic, would just appreciate everybody if they could hit the thumbs up. If you guys are liking this content, really helps us get into more people's feeds. And if you are enjoying content like this, we'd really appreciate if you guys could check out the donation link on cryptocast.network and help support us. We really appreciate, guys, all the donations and feedback from you. Everybody's having a good time in the chat too. We got Max in here. We got people I can't pronounce, HK Tuck. We got Roland Tech, Uvas, a bunch of people in the chat, guys, having a great time here. So it should be pretty fun. Let's get on to the second topic of the day, Miniscript, how Blockstream engineers are making Bitcoin programming easier. So this is pretty interesting, guys. Miniscript is based off of Script, the first smart contract language in the world that the world has ever seen. Of course, that is for Bitcoin. And essentially, Script lets users use different conditions under which coins can be spent. And admittedly, guys, Script is pretty complex. It's actually a little bit hard for me to use as a web developer. So personally, I just use Nicolas Storier's and Bitcoin library for C# to be able to interact with the chain directly and create contracts that way and things. But this actually looks like pretty cool because this will actually make Script itself easier to use. So that is interesting. And it comes with things to compile the Miniscript down to Script really easily. So very interesting stuff. We got some developer titans such as Andrew Palesta and Peter Woolley. They've been working on this thing for over a year. And this is actually, and this isn't just theoretical, guys. This isn't just a theoretical concept or a paper. They're actually using this internally right now at Blockstream. And they're actually using it for Liquid. And they have public demos available and stuff for you to download. So let's go with Benny, with you first on this. With advancements like Miniscript and Simplicity, the new programming language as well, that's going to come down the line, do you think that the wait was kind of worth it for this more advanced functionality, as opposed to, for example, like just building something completely new from scratch?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you look at kind of the ethos of Bitcoin and the people involved in it already, it's all about time preference, right? Everybody is gunning for that low time preference. And what did the projects that wanted to get this stuff right away do? Well, they compromised the integrity of the base layer by making trade-offs, right? So, when I look at some of the other technologies that are out there on other chains, I mean, in general, some of the things that people are trying to do are cool, but when you make that trade-off, when you take out that solid foundation of that base money, that base store of value underneath it, and then you build all this complicated stuff on top of it, it's just a complete non-starter for me. And so when I look at this and I'm seeing now the stuff that people wanted, at first it was all about scaling. Then it was all about, we want to have a complex smart contract. And we start to see this stuff rolling down the line. And, that I think the next battleground will be more about privacy. And we already start to see stuff like that rolling out. And it's just, I think people that have too high time preference that are saying, we want it now, we're going to make another chain. But in doing that, they're just throwing out more or less the entire use case of having this technology in the first place. So do I think it's good that we waited? 100%, because we compromised nothing to get here. We've stood strong. We've kept everything solid at a base layer. We are trying to build that store of value and then build complex ways of payments, contracts, and privacy on top of it. And I think the people that have kind of seen that or grown to understand that over time are the ones that are the best placed to be future-proofed.
Absolutely. Great points, Benny. I mean, everything has trade-offs, and I think the market is starting to learn this more and more, but the narratives keep changing with these alts, and in order for them to be able to be propped up with the next cycle and things like that. But as you say, Benny, the next big thing really in Bitcoin is after scaling is going to be privacy stuff, because we've kind of figured out, we've already got a roadmap for scaling with Lightning and various other techniques that are going to be done on layer 1 as well. So privacy is going to be the next big thing. And what I try to tell people, because a lot of people are like, well, we need to go ahead and get everybody on privacy right now. We need to get it right down now. And I try to tell people, look, guys, Lightning is in beta. It's basically the privacy solution for the average person. The average person is going to end up using Bitcoin for the most part through Lightning, and they already have guaranteed baked in privacy on that layer. So I think that's going to be really, really big, and we're the most privacy is going to happen, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Let's go with where we at here. Let's go with Tib next. Tib, what is your thoughts on this and the idea about trade-offs? And I mean, do you think that this type building on this type of this foundation, instead of maybe constantly reinventing the wheel or maybe moving fast and breaking things, what are your thoughts on waiting for these types of advancements?
I truly think, to echo Ben's point, that the sort of conservative culture of Bitcoin's engineering is extremely desirable. So it looks like Miniscript, and I'm really no technical expert there at all, but it looks like it's going to be making multi-signature and the overall Bitcoin's programmability much more mainstream and affordable to developers of wallets, for instance, which I think is a good thing. Right now, there's not enough options for consumers to go about picking a multi-signature wallet, though multi-signature in terms of storage is the most secure way to hold your coins, right? So I think, making that technology more affordable to developers is a good thing overall. And ideally, we're going to see the market react to this and get more options for consumers out there.
Absolutely. And guys, like, just to, so you guys know, disclaimer, none of us are protocol developers, guys, but we do follow this space with a great deal of passion. We do follow advancements like these with a great deal of passion. And I think that we have the ability to recognize when something big is coming, when something big in Bitcoin is occurring. And in my opinion, this is absolutely huge when you combine Miniscript with not Solidity, but Simplicity, the programming language that's being worked on as well. When you combine those two things in the future, there is just so much functionality there, guys, that it's pretty much limitless. And especially when you combine all of that functionality with layers above, I mean, when you look at Lightning as this interoperable application layer above Bitcoin that can connect everything else together, and then you throw in this additional functionality and making current complex functionality easier, guys, that seems to be a win-win, and I don't see how the market won't react to that as well. So great comments, Tib. Stefan, let us go with you. What do you think about this, man? And of course, like I said, we're not programmers, but what are your thoughts on this development?
Yeah, fantastic. I really liked Ben and Tib's comments. So let me play off that a little bit. I think something we have to recognize just is how early we are in all of this, right? So people are coming out and expecting like the world out of this thing, but it's like, firstly, this thing has to become money, and then only like it's sort of, this is going to be like a multi-decade long process kind of thing to think about it from that point of view. So with what Miniscript enables, it's things like how, okay, so when you're doing a Bitcoin transaction, really what's happening is you are, unlocking and relocking a certain piece of Bitcoin. And what Miniscript does is it helps, in some sense, kind of crunch down or simplify those conditions on which you are locking that UTXO, and it allows for certain different spending paths, if you will. So a quick example might be, you might do a setup with someone where it's like one pathway is 2 of 3 multi-signature, and then the other pathway is like a 3 of 3 pathway. And so the idea is that with Miniscript, it will help sort of crunch down that language into ways that are more easily readable and easily kind of programmable, if that makes sense. It's a bit technical, so I'm not quite getting the full nuance of it, but the basic idea then is, think of it from this point of view. Right now, most of us are just used to single signature, standard transaction. I receive it, I spend it sort of stuff. We haven't really even gone to the level of doing some of obviously there are people out there doing some of these sort of more complicated scripts and so on, but right now most of us are not using that. That's not the typical thing. Or it might be used in certain institutions, right, where they need a certain, maybe from a corporate level, they want to have certain controls in place, that they're using like a custom solution for that sort of thing. So yeah, my comment would just be that we haven't even figured out like standard like unlocking scripts for certain types of, like, it's not a common practice right now that we all use it, right? Like the typical user uses it. It's like, it's only advanced users right now. And so hopefully with this Miniscript and with the way it sort of develops out, people can get to a point where developers can more easily reflect the spending policies that the consumer actually wants. So, and then it'll take time for that to even be productized and put into a wallet, let's say, or put into a software that the retail people can actually use. So yeah, but I mean, it's a great development, and it's just a real testament to like the engineering effort being put together by Peter Vella, Andrew Polstra, and Sankit from Blockstream.
There we go. I absolutely, totally agree, Stefan. I mean, so many great points in there. I think the biggest takeaway for me from your points there was that overall, this is going to be like really great for the ecosystem, because now we can start building out standards, right? Well, like you say, these spending policies with Miniscript can actually be visualized, guys. Like this is really interesting. This is how you start building really, really advanced stuff. This is how you start getting machines to start creating transactions, right? Machine created transactions. When you can distill policies down to this level of certainty, that is when the magic can really, really start happening. So that's going to be really great. Great points. Let's go with Ansel finally on this. Ansel, what do you think? Do you think that these type of developments with Miniscript and simplicity, is this going to bring in more developers because you'll be able to do more things?
Oh geez, I don't know. Probably everything is good for Bitcoin and it keeps growing. So this just makes it a little bit easier. So probably more developers will come in. The way I look at this, just to add my kind of definition to this whole thing, is that UTXOs, it's scripts are evaluated to true or false. That's the lock. Either it's locked or unlocked. And so this is a validation thing. If the script evaluates to true, then the UTXO can be spent. That's different than like Ethereum, where they are actually doing computation and having follow-on instructions involved in this smart contract thing. So I think this highlights the difference between scalability here. This is very simple validation, even though you can do more complex things. Like you only have a few little shaped blocks, right? But the blocks you can build a beautiful sculpture or beautiful building out of. That's what Bitcoin is. It's not where Ethereum, you're doing computation on every single node, why they have to do sharding and things. So it's a really good way to highlight the difference in scalability between some of these altcoins and Bitcoin.
Absolutely, some great points in there. I do want to reiterate, because a lot of people don't know that actually Ethereum actually does validate computation, guys, where Bitcoin actually validates just transactions to true or false. So, spent or not spent, and that's just a completely world of difference here. As Ansel said, when you try to validate computation in a decentralized manner, any single line of code that you run is going to have to be validated by every single node on the network. And, again, that's just why this has always been the case, guys, with Ethereum. This is why for years, since the beginning, engineers have been trying to tell people in Ethereum that this is just not a practical solution in any way, shape, or form. But of course, they went forward anyway, trying to build this decentralized AWS. But unfortunately, guys, that's not what you're going to get when you try to work with Ethereum. So you're going to have your transactions and your computation validated with every single node. And this is why they're trying to do different things, like Ansel said, sharding and various other things. eventually it's just going to be centralized, guys, on AWS itself. There's no reason why they're not going to go that way. So.
Well, can I add another thing about Miniscript too? Is I think it will enable experimentation of different layer 2s. So yeah, it will help Lightning. It'll probably help some sidechain thing, but it will enable like creativity of new layer 2s and how to use Bitcoin. So yeah, I think this might be a start of like a blossoming of creativity on layer 2. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I think Benny had one more thing to say.
Yeah, so I just thought it was worth mentioning a little bit of what this can enable as far as complicated schemes of signing after what Stefan was talking about. So, I mean, a good example of something that can be more easily done with this would be, so Bitcoin already is, it is smart contracts, right? You can do things like multi-sig. And so maybe you have an institution that has a 2 of 3 multi-sig, for instance. So you have 3 CEOs, each one of them has a key, and 2 of them has to sign in order to move funds somewhere. Well, why couldn't one of those CEOs also have their own multi-sig setup where they have different devices in different locations, and they need to do 2 of 3 themselves in order to give that single signature added to the already existing multi-sig on that within that institution. So you can get more complex schemes where it's not just I have a single key for 2 of 3. I actually have a 2 of 3 on top of a 2 of 3. So you can get very complex with the way that you're signing transactions and getting it to evaluate as true and unlock those funds.
Absolutely. Great points, guys. We're going to do final comments on this topic before we move on. So Ansel, we'll just start out with you, go the other direction. Ansel, what are your final comments on this topic, man?
I like Miniscript. I don't know.
Oh, come on, Ansel. Anything other than you like Miniscript?
I mean, I think it highlights the scalability of Bitcoin versus things like Ethereum. And I'm a big stickler over the last, couple years for saying why things like Ethereum and altcoins are inferior to Bitcoin's, protocol and Bitcoin's way of doing things. So I think this highlights that, and Bitcoin's going to keep getting stronger.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. It really does highlight that. I think that would be my final point too of this topic is that, Bitcoin, like Benny said, Bitcoin did not sacrifice decentralization and thus censorship resistance to create this more advanced functionality. And that, guys, is the big difference. Bitcoin has to be decentralized. It has to be censorship resistant. It has to be able to be validated by anybody on the network. And otherwise, guys, it's not Bitcoin. Otherwise, we're just back with an altcoin or with Ethereum. And this is why what Ansel says is that Bitcoin doesn't compete with altcoins. It competes with base layer technologies like the dollar, like gold, because this is truly what it is. So let's go to Tib. Final thoughts on this topic?
I think it's really exciting in Miniscript overall because it sort of further ossifies the base layer in a way, because all the stuff that you add on top of the main of the base layer are things that you're not going to be putting in the base layer. So overall, these technologies are extremely exciting. Like you look at Lightning, you look at CoinJoins, and ideally, we're going to have more of these sort of Bitcoin libraries that get built on top of the base layer. So overall, extremely bullish on Bitcoin and their and the layered scalability and privacy of the protocol.
And the layered approach too is going to be with privacy, right? As well, like it's not just scaling, but privacy is going to be a layered approach as well. We have things like CoinJoin and Join Market, for that layer 1 kind of stuff, but also layer 2 Lightning is going to be is encrypted by default. So absolutely the scaling. The scaling mechanism the Bitcoin is using with layers seems to be working just like it did for every other single network technology that we built in the history of mankind. So awesome point, Tim. Stefan, final comments on this topic, sir?
Yeah, so look, Miniscript is great. So in summary, one final point I might add is that it's mainly designed for, so even just looking from Peter Weller's website, it's mainly designed for P2WSH, which is the native SegWit address type. So again, this is another instance where companies have an incentive to move to the latest address types and start using these BC1 BESH32 addresses because there's a fee saving there as well. So it kind of all helps push the ecosystem forward. If they want some of the benefits, well, then it's going to help push them towards using the newer and more improved script types.
Well, that's a great point because, guys, everything in Bitcoin is incentives, right? Everything is incentive driven. And so SegWit did recently hit new all-time highs, like around 60%, I think. But there still has to be incentive for companies to switch. And we always knew that SegWit would enable all sorts of new functionality, including versioning, so that we could entice companies over the years to eventually upgrade. And this is how we're going to do it I believe from the future, from now on to the future, is if we want things to upgrade, there has to be bug fixes. There has to be clear functionality wins. There has to be new features. And so this is how we get a decentralized network, guys, to upgrade, is with incentives. This is how Bitcoin works and runs, is on incentives and its game theory. So Benny, final thoughts on this topic, sir.
To speak to what Ansel was saying was in regards to the comparison between how Bitcoin is going about scaling and adding in these functions versus other systems. So like you look at Bitcoin and we're kind of saying, how do we optimize? How do we take up the least space by doing and get the most functionality out of the base layer? And then how do we build on top of it so as not to encumber people that are trying to fully validate themselves? And then you look over to Ethereum and they're like, okay, where can we dump our trash? How about on the Bcash blockchain? And so, like you see that approach where it's like, well, okay, look, there's a blockchain that's not being used. We'll just use it as our garbage dump, and we'll put all our computations there. And yeah, so I mean, it kind of seems like Bitcoin's just taking responsibility for its own level of adoption and it's gradually building on itself and not relying on other people to deal with the weight of its own protocol, and allowing people to fully partake in it without compromising. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And that's why I'm, all in Bitcoin.
A beautiful thing indeed, Benny. But man, we got to reiterate that point because it has not been mentioned yet, guys. One of Ethereum's scaling solutions is literally dumping their extra data on other chains, as Benny just described. They were talking about integrating with Bitcoin Cash and with other chains as well. The main one I heard was Bitcoin Cash, but it's just hilarious, guys. And of course, Vitalik recently came out as a pluralist, as he calls it, a pluralist, because really what that means is that since his chain is failing, he'll let his chain work with any chain. Guys, we'll work with anybody. We're Ethereum. We love everybody. We'll work with anybody. And so this is essentially what they're trying to sell, is this kind of like, everybody holding hands, when in reality, of course, they're just looking to essentially put a Facebook login on a MySpace page, guys. This is essentially what we're down to here. And so, in my opinion, that one of the recent articles about talking about this pluralist idea, I did tweet out that, look, is this Vitalik? Like, literally, is this MySpace admitting that they're going to have a Facebook login button? Because this is the similarities that it gets represented here. Because crypto and Bitcoin is very similar to the internet itself. We see some of these things repeat over and over again. So that I thought was definitely worth repeating, because that is something, guys, that happened, and just absolutely hilarious. Some of the suggestions, guys, some of the scaling suggestions that comes out of the Ethereum camp, guys, makes me want to jump off a cliff. But anyway, all right, let's move on to the final topic of the day, guys. We're having a great time here. Everybody's having a great time in chat. We got Randy McMillan, we got Cordic, we got Agatha. Agatha joins us a bunch of times, guys. Everybody's having, we got Uvas still. Everybody's still having a good time. So if you guys are just joining the show now, we really appreciate if you could hit the thumbs up button on that, guys. And if you are new to the channel, we would very much appreciate if you could hit the subscribe button and become one of our subscribers. We just recently went over 3,000 subscribers. So we thank you guys so much for that. Really, really appreciate it. Again, all the subscribers and feedback and donations, we really, really appreciate it, guys. It keeps us going. As you know, we're pretty excited about Bitcoin, but still, guys, this is what's really great. Helps us keep the light on. Helps us keeps the lights on. So thank you guys for that. Let's go ahead and go to the final topic of the day. Bitcoin's reported market dominance seems to be approaching 70%, but in reality, this article is saying that it is above 90%. An analysis by Arcane Research shows how the real market dominance of Bitcoin is way higher than what is traditionally reported. We have traditionally sites like coinmarketcap.com, it's derived from the asset price multiplied with its circulating supply and divided by the total market cap of all the coins. But this method, guys, is we've been saying for years, we've been telling people for years, this is highly flawed because it does not take into liquidity into account. And of course, I've been saying this for a while. A lot of people have been saying this for a while. Measuring liquidity is not exactly straightforward. So a simpler measurement that's usually used is for a proxy is the trading volume. So when adjusted for liquidity by calculating the volume weighted market capitalization, guys, Bitcoin's market dominance is pushed well above 90%. So let's start out with Tib on this one. Tib, what is your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on this measurement in the first place? And then what are your thoughts on this actual article using trading volume?
I think trading volume is sort of a better proxy to get a better picture overall of the market dominance of any asset like Bitcoin, though, as you said, it can be played and so gamed, I would say. And so the obvious one is wash trading. So I think the article mentions the link from Bitwise, the Bitwise index. They did a research, bitcointradevolume.com, where they sort of take the more regulated spot market exchange venues for Bitcoin, and the daily volume of Bitcoin, for instance, is I think 330 million over the last 24 hours. You take the same metric from CoinMarketCap, and I think it is 11 billion. So we have a 32x difference of trading volume between the same asset. And you look at which market venues .cmc, so CoinMarketCap, take data from, and these are all these shady, shadowy exchange venues that claim to have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of trading. So there's that. Like, trading volume is a good measure that I think provides more information on the liquidity of Bitcoin and any other assets, but it still can be gamed. And the second point I'd like to make, I was related to the 70% versus 90% Bitcoin dominance index, is that index, that measurement, doesn't even take into account the futures market. And Bitcoin is, I believe, to my knowledge today, has the only sort of legit exchange venues for futures, which is the CME, CBOE, and then we have a few upcoming ones like Backed, right? And so that, I think, again, another 300 million over the last 24 hours. So if you want my opinion, I think the actual Bitcoin dominance is more in the 95, 98% against other assets. And I think we still have 5% that is garbage and should go at some point. But the market will decide.
Absolutely, Mark. As always, guys, the market will decide. So great points. We're learning as we're going, but as you say, there's of course a couple ways to game the trading volume with wash trading. But when you kind of exclude out those exchanges that aren't really trusted, right? We have like the top 13 or the top 10, I think, exchanges. If you just use those, then and not some of these crazy like exchanges with almost no volume, then absolutely, it probably is more into the 95 plus percentile. So very, very great point. Benny, let's go with you next. What are your thoughts on this? Let me ask you this too. What are your thoughts on this measurement? And should we really be excluding tokenized assets like ICOs, stable coins, and Tether and that kind of stuff, and even coins that aren't proof of work mining if we're going to measure some kind of index?
Yeah, I mean, I think we will get to a place, and we kind of have already gotten there, where what are we measuring? We're trying to measure what are claim to be currencies for the most part, but then we're throwing in these weird tokenized assets as well. And then we're throwing in things that are literally just fiat upon fiat, where you have something that's pegged to a dollar. So, I mean, it's this odd mix of and if we're including stable coins, then why not just include all US dollars, at which point then it gets diluted even more. So I find it a little odd, the way that these things are grouped. I think that it's a fantastic thing that we're getting into more reliable metrics and starting to include things like liquidity in those measurements. And actually, shortly after this story dropped, you saw CoinMarketCap saying, hey, we're going to update the way that we do are waiting, and we're going to shuffle things around to be a little bit more transparent and actually makes sense when it comes to how we rank these coins. They said that some coins, after they went through the process of factoring in liquidity, dropped 1,000 places in the most extreme cases, which is insane. And so you can see like what kind of craziness is happening on these shady exchanges that were alluded to that they're talking about. But yeah, in the end, it'll give us a more clear picture of exactly how dominant Bitcoin is. And the one thing that I found very interesting is they separated out. They did coin market cap and showed those metrics. They did just all exchanges everywhere and did those metrics, including liquidity. And then they did just the top exchanges, like the top 10 that were actually not full of wash trades. And the difference between all exchanges and the top 10 was very interesting because both were above 90% when you included anything except stable coins. But when you did all exchanges, not the top 10, but all exchanges and included the stable coins, instead of being over 90%, it was down to like 70 something percent again. So on whatever those shady exchanges are, for whatever reason, there's that much more volume on these stable coins just flowing through them and being counted. So I'm not sure exactly the reason for that, but it is interesting to see the difference between that from the top 10 exchanges and all exchanges everywhere.
Yeah, very interesting, guys. I mean, there's all sorts of data that has been shown. I mean, you can actually kind of tell for the most part what wash trading looks like in the data. If you have access to, the trades to the public APIs, there's been research done on this, and you can really see the difference between a healthy exchange and a freaking exchange with almost no liquidity. It's night and day difference, guys. So I definitely encourage you guys to check that out, because really right now what we're looking at is there's really like 10 to 15 exchanges at the most in the world that really I think can be considered credible at this point in this huge decentralized market. So next we will go with Ansel. Ansel, what are your thoughts on this market dominance, man? And let me also get your thoughts on what do you think of what the article says about network effects trumping specialization?
Well, I wanted to say something about what Benny was saying there. Why are we measuring what we're measuring? Well, it's because scammers made the whole dominance index in the first place, right? People trying to be the middleman for altcoin to altcoin or altcoin to Bitcoin transactions. They defined this metric and they used it to pump the altcoins. So that's why it's like that. For the stable coins, we have to. I don't know where I heard this, but if they just put out like, say, I think it was Udi Wertheimer, and he said that if Apple was to tokenize their shares and put it on CoinMarketCap, it would have 95% dominance right away. So what are we including? Are we going to include stable coins in the future? If China launches their own stable coin, say, or this Libra thing, that Bitcoin's dominance will go down to 5%. So I think it's important to talk about what Bitcoin is, why it's different, and stuff like that.
Absolutely, because a lot of the times people are measuring currencies with currencies, and everything has fit in a little tiny box, a perfectly square box up until Bitcoin. Everything that we have, the millions of different kinds of assets, and everything fits in a nice little box for the most part. But Bitcoin is not fitting in any of these boxes, so we have to find a better way to measure it. Because if you think it's a currency, well, it's not. It's more than a currency. If you think it's just a store of value, well, it's not. It's also a payment network. And if you think it's just a payment network, well, it's not. It's also a programmable money and development platform, and on it goes. So we're all learning, but yeah, it's absolutely crazy and ludicrous right now the way that the market cap is measured, guys. Again, just to reiterate this, if I have a billion coins and I sell one to Ansel for $1, my coin has $1 billion market cap, guys. Like, that makes no freaking sense. So this is why it's been really easy to game. This is why you've seen it just slosh around so much, and this is why you see the coins dropping 1,000 points when they're measured with actual liquidity. So Stefan, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, being the leading economist here. What are your thoughts?
Man, I'm no leading economist, but yeah, I'll offer a few thoughts there. Firstly, agreed basically with everyone here. what we've seen is just scammers trying to confuse people, right? So they have pushed this metric. This metric has done more to confuse than it has to clarify. Bitcoin dominance was always BS, right? Like, as in the way it's currently said, right? It was just BS on top of BS. All it does is it just makes it more and more profitable for these shitcoin scammers to keep like pumping these kind of shitcoin centric businesses, right? Because if there's a Bitcoin dominance, then it's this whole it's crypto, it's not Bitcoin, whereas it's Bitcoin, not crypto, right? And so that's the one key thing. And then obviously the other point around, now there's a good article a while back by Brendan Bernstein saying cryptocurrencies are money, not equity, right? So obviously ICOs should not be in there. And then from a stablecoin point of view, everything should be categorized, right? So it should be like stablecoins have their own little bucket and Bitcoin is its own thing. Bitcoin is not a stablecoin. It's not, nor is it designed to be. It is its own money. So stablecoins should obviously not be included in any kind of metric, right? And then really the real dominance, and I think it might have been Warren Togami from Blockstream who made this point. He was saying the real dominance is Bitcoin versus the US dollar, right? Like that's the real dominance metric that we should be looking at. Not like Bitcoin versus the shitcoins, right? And it's just a shitcoin casino, right? So they just play these silly games. So yeah, look, CoinMarketCap, people should just stop using it, stop referring to it, just move on from it, right? Obviously that may fall on deaf ears, but oh well. The other point I wanted to add is there's another site that I'm trying to go on it now just to confirm it, but it might not be working now, but the site is coinmarketbook.cc. And that's an interesting one as well, because what it does is it ranks them by the amount of buy support. So it looks at what is the price and then 10% plus and minus of that, what sort of slippage would be caused or how many orders are there actually there within that 10% range. And that's actually a much better indicator from our point of view of really how much actual liquidity is there on that particular coin. And as you guys have been saying, and as most of these articles are saying, the real Bitcoin dominance is well over 85, 90%, right? That's the real dominance. But let me flip that now. There's an opportunity. The reason this stuff is so confusing right now is people don't understand it. But then there's an opportunity for people who do understand it, for people who disregard all the BS and just keep stacking sats and just keep building your knowledge about Bitcoin. You're going to do better than all those confused people who are out there wasting their time on shitcoin XYZ, right? So there's an opportunity in this for us.
It is amazing to me how many more people will choose complexity over simplicity for some of the most basic understandings of life, whether that's economics, mathematics, whatever it is. People will just be like, no, it has to be this roundabout, crazy, super long formula. It can't just be buy Bitcoin. It can't be that simple, guys. It can't be. Nothing in life has ever been that simple, well, except for maybe buy gold. But it's pretty much that simple, guys. You can spend the time, as Ansel says, taking advantage of that opportunity to be able to learn all this stuff and maybe carve out your own company or idea or niche in the space. You could do all that, and we encourage that. Or you could just buy Bitcoin. Like it's up to you guys completely. It's all up to you guys. But that is exactly how simple it actually can be. So great points and on that. And yeah, I mean, to reiterate the real dominance, guys, this is the real dominance, and that is Bitcoin versus gold versus the dollar. That's the only dominance chart that we really need to be working with, because it just makes no sense, as Stefan says, to group all of these assets together, stable coins and ICOs and other tokens, and even non-proof of work tokens into the same category as Bitcoin. We've been saying it for years, guys. That is ludicrous. That is not helped anything. It's actually hurt and harmed things. So I think that, we're going to figure it out in the future. We're going to have better ways of measuring it as we all learn. We're all learning together, guys. I mean, we're not perfect and everything, but the dominance market has been used to scam more than it has been used to help. But I think we are getting into a place where there's more articles being researched. There's more data coming out. We're using more analytics on on-chain data. We have amazing things like Coinmetrics, companies like Coinmetrics, and then people studying that stuff like Nick Carter, and, just amazing content showing people the right direction here. But also, just final point, guys, remember, every day that Bitcoin stays ahead, guys, it becomes far less likely that any other crypto can compete as money. As Stefan said, money, actual money, not ICOs, not equity, not crazy other things, just money itself. And Bitcoin, so far as this article and many other articles have said, is currently the best form of digital money. So I think we can go let's go through everybody and just get their final point on this, and then I think we can end it, guys. So really appreciate it, everybody being here. Had a great time so far. Ansel, what is your final comments on this topic, sir? No, you're gonna wave your turn.
I had minimized the window. I couldn't find the mute button. Yeah,
happens to the best of us, man. Trust me.
Everybody said it well. I think everybody kind of understands what's going on here with the scammers and why people were pumping this dominance index in the first place. I said years ago that Bitcoin was 100% dominant, and it still is in this space. So that's all.
And of course, the chat is saying what we probably should have been saying as well. Everybody needs to follow Plan B at 100 trillion on Twitter right now for his analysis on the stock to flow ratio of Bitcoin. And, you know, I really am glad that his information is getting out there. It's being translated now into multiple languages. I found this guy when he had like 500 followers, and I just kept retweeting everything he had because the information was I wasn't seeing anything like this elsewhere. And it turned out to be true. There was nobody else tweeting about stock to flow. So I just kept retweeting this guy, and it did get the knowledge out. So now he's got over like 25 or 30,000 followers, and again, been translated into multiple languages. So this is just absolutely fantastic. So guys, definitely check out Plan B. Shout out to Plan B 100 trillion on Twitter. So thank you for that, Ansel. Tib, your final comments on this topic, sir.
I'll keep it simple. Bitcoin, not crypto. I think this is what people should be focusing on.
Bitcoin, not crypto, guys. Keep it simple. We're trying to keep it simple, though we probably go into a little bit too complex stuff, but we're keeping it simple, guys. We're trying to keep it simple. All right, Stefan, final thoughts on this one, man.
Sorry, just had an unmute problem as well. Yeah. But yeah, basically, look, similar thoughts. Bitcoin, not crypto. I think I might just quickly call out as well with Plan B. I have the only two interviews with Plan B because he's anon. So check out episode 67 and 86 of my podcast if you want to hear him speak and actually talk through his model. And yeah, look, I think ultimately it's just a massive opportunity for the people who do it right and for the people who build a service in Bitcoin, learn about Bitcoin, and kind of contribute and constructively build on top of Bitcoin rather than trying to take advantage of people's lack of knowledge or awareness and understanding to scam them, right? So there's two pathways, right? So just try and focus towards that, and I think you'll do well out of this, both personally and professionally.
Now I've had an unmute problem. All right, absolutely. I totally agree with you on that, Stefan. It's absolutely crazy. Like you really do have, I think, the only interview with Plan B. So definitely, guys, you got to check that out. Both interviews were freaking fantastic, Stefan. I definitely listened to both of them over a couple times because there's just so much information in there. You guys went for a little while there, but man, yeah, it was great to hear his voice. I'm like, whoa, I've been following him for months and months, and to actually hear him like outline this out in his own words was fantastic, mind-blowing. So really appreciate that interview, Stefan. Definitely everybody check that out. All right, Benny, we'll need your final comments on this topic, sir.
Yeah, ditto on the Stefan interviews. I had a couple good walk-in pods a couple weeks back where I just blew through both those interviews, and man, they are incredible. So kudos to Stefan and to 100 trillion, because that's some solid information. In regards to the dominance and everything, again, to echo everybody, keep it simple. Why would you diversify base money? When you're talking about trying to, create a global store of wealth, and that has this high of dominance, that is already, when there's that many altcoins out there, even with the terrible metrics of just looking at market cap, that was still at 70%. It's insane that you would want to dabble in the other garbage that's out there. I did a postmortem on Brian Kelly's diversified altcoin portfolio, I think about a week or 2 weeks ago. And essentially what I did is in the middle of August of 2017, he showed what he likes to see out of a well-diversified cryptocurrency portfolio. And he had Bitcoin at like 30%, and then he had like Ethereum next, at 15%, and Ethereum Classic for some reason right next to Ethereum. Like it was, and so he even had like 5% in metal, which what the hell is metal? And so anyways, I did a postmortem on all of it, and I went through and I tracked what you would have gotten in dollars out of it by the end of it, and what you would have done had you just gone into Bitcoin. And so you came out of it on top. If you had put in $10,000, you came out with about 13 grand, but basically all of that upside was from Bitcoin. And most of the other alts lost you just thousands of dollars. And then on top of that, if you had converted your Bitcoin into the alts, the opportunity cost of buying those alts, essentially you lost 50% of your sats by doing that in that time period. So essentially, to quote one of my other favorite podcasters, keep it simple, stay humble, stack sats, Matthew Odell.
Yeah, Matthew Odell. Shout out to Matt. They have a great podcast over there, guys. Tales from the Crypt podcast. That with Marty Bent as well. That was. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. I hope I retweeted that. I'm pretty sure that came across my Twitter stream. But fascinating to see. If everybody hasn't checked it out, definitely follow Benny, guys. I have everybody's Twitter accounts, of course, in the show notes. But yeah, that was a fascinating tweet. It was crazy. Like this diversification meme. It was just been crazy in 2017. Like, sure, throw some Bitcoin in metal. No problem. Like crazy stuff, guys.
Just so you know, that one lost 98% of your Bitcoin.
Oh, that's a tough one. It's tough to be in alts, guys. But again, people got to touch the stove eventually to figure it out. So I think great points, Benny. Thanks so much for that, guys. I think we can go ahead and say goodbye to everybody. So let's get their final comment, or let's find out where we can get more information from them. Ansel, please tell us all where we can find more about you, sir.
Do a podcast, Bitcoin and Markets. Just go to bitcoinandmarkets.com. I'm on Twitter, everywhere.
Yep. Bitcoin and Markets, guys. Just Google that. Check out his Patreon. Check out the website. Check out the newsletter. Lots of stuff happening with Ansel, guys, at any given time. He's got private stuff, I believe, as well for the Patreon. So make sure you subscribe to that if you guys want even more information about Bitcoin. So thanks for that, Ansel. Tib, where can we find out more about you, sir?
On Bitcoin Twitter. Handle is THIBM_.
Bitcoin Twitter, people. Bitcoin Twitter. That's where it is. I still say CT because it's just so easy. We've been saying it for so long. Nobody knows what the hell BT means, but CT, like, so we sort of got past that. Now we have to get BT in the brain. Well, eventually we'll get it. All right, Stefan, where can we find out more about you, sir?
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm on stefanlivera.com. You can find the podcast there, YouTube, Twitter, all that stuff. stefanlivera.com.
Yep, make sure to check that out, guys. I personally use the YouTube version of that, Stefan. I like to consume my podcast via YouTube for the most part because it's so simple. I just open in a tab and then I 1.25 or 1.5 it, and everything works out for me. So that's how I consume it, Stefan. So that's really awesome. Check out that, guys. Plenty of ways to consume podcasts here. That is for sure. No shortage of that. Benny, where can we find out more about you, sir?
You can find me three main places: on Twitter, just at BTC Sessions. You can find my YouTube BTC Sessions as well, and I do 4 or 5 videos a week. And I do have a website, btcsessions.ca, and that's where you can find that blog that I did about Brian Kelly.
Absolutely, guys. We are slacking compared to all these guys. These guys create way more and way better content. So make sure you guys follow all of these people. I try to bring them together, so we can sort of get our thoughts together, but definitely make sure you guys are following these guys individually. They all have insane amounts of content and put our content to shame. So thanks again, guys. Really appreciate everybody being here. Really appreciate everybody in the chat, guys. We had a great time trying to work out all these different views, trying to make sure everything gets working. But apparently, I think we figured out Zoom. I think we figured it out, guys. We got all the videos. So hopefully we'll be good to go from going on in the future. Of course, guys, you can find us at cryptocast.network. You can find me at the1vortex, all spelled out, on Twitter. We will be on BT, so make sure you guys catch us there. Until next time, guys, please keep talking Bitcoin. See you guys later. Bye-bye.